Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. CBI launches preliminary probe into death of Madhya Pradesh governor's son in the Vyapam scam. Agency also lodges 6 fresh FIRs in the case. Three more days to go in this monsoon session of Parliament and no let-up in opposition protests. Key bills like the GST hang in the balance as it is slated to be tabled in the Rajya Sabha today. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani blames Pakistan over wave of insurgent attacks in Kabul, says Pakistan is sending messages of war. 6 killed in a wave of deadly attacks in Turkey, attacks amid rising tension between government and Kurdish militants. And India-born Sundar Pichai named CEO of Google as company announces restructuring. Well, our top focus on the bulletin this morning. Logjam in Parliament continued on day 14 of the monsoon session, with both houses witnessing adjournments due to vociferous protests by the opposition benches. The opposition lashed out at the government for failing to find a solution to end the ongoing impasse in both Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Yes, Mo.
There was barely any business in the Rajya Sabha on Monday as protests continued. Leader of the opposition Ghulam Nabi Azad refuted the report that a meeting was called by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister to end the stalemate over Lalit Gate and Vyapam issues. The government too hit out at the opposition, claiming the protests are a pretext to scuttle the GST bill.
मैं ये स्पष्ट करना चाहता हूं कि ऐसी कोई मीटिंग नहीं हुई थी। अलबत्ता उन्होंने टेलीफोन किया था, लेकिन वो गतिरोध को तोड़ने के लिए नहीं था। वो उनका सलाह था कि माननीय स्पीकर साहिबा ने कांग्रेस के एमपीज को निकाला है उस सदन से 5 दिन के लिए, तो यदि अगर कुछ लोग उनसे बात कर
You can't have a house conducted in a manner where the government is not allowed to speak. Sir, we get an uneasy impression. We get an uneasy impression that the issue of the External Affairs Minister is only a pretext. Their real reason is they don't want the Constitution amendment on the GST to be cleared in this session.
Deputy Chairman PJ Kurian had to step in to break truce but failed to pacify the protesting members, adjourning the House for the day.
See, in a democracy, government and opposition are both equally important. For running the House, both are responsibility. Both should come halfway. You meet, discuss and try to find out a solution.
Meanwhile, 25 suspended MPs from the Lok Sabha were back in the House without any change in their strategy over the functioning of the House and accused Sushma Swaraj of having professional links with Lalit Modi. An adjournment motion on the issue was rejected by the Speaker.
After question hour.
As the opposition remained adamant on their demand for the resignation of the ministers, Mulayam Singh Yadav asked the chair to find a way out of the logjam through talks.
इस पक्ष में हैं कि सदन चले और ये ज़्यादा दिन तक ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। मैं इस पक्ष में हूँ जी, कृपा करके मेरी एक आपसे प्रार्थना है। हमेशा स्पीकर चाहता तो बंद हो जाता, बुला लिए इनको, हमें सबको बुला लिए, अभी बंद हो जाएगा।
Even after several adjournments, order could not be restored. Leader of the Congress party in the Lok Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, asked the Speaker to adjourn the House.
Rules also says when the House is not in order, no business can transaction will take place. Then how the chair is allowing the other businesses? And when we are in the well, we are suspended. When they are speaking, they are putting their views. You are telling that it is as per rule. So, and other members, they have got other rules, and we have got other rules. Therefore, I request you, the House is not in order. You kindly adjourn the House.
The ongoing monsoon session has been a washout thus far and threatens to remain so till August 13. The centre plans to bring the GST bill in the upper house amid continuous protests and disruptions. The bill is listed for consideration and passing in today's list of business for the Rajya Sabha. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning to talk about the situation in Parliament is the political editor of the Business Standard, Aditi Fadnis. Aditi, thank you for joining me on the program this morning. Can the government salvage anything out of this monsoon session of Parliament? We've got 3 days to go. Thus far, we've seen very little, if not any, legislative business take place. Is it going to be the same over the next 3 days?
It's hard to say. As you said, your correspondent noted that the GST bill is listed for consideration and passing today in the Rajya Sabha. Now, it's a constitutional amendment bill. The finance minister has told us off the cameras that it's not correct to really pass a constitution amendment bill amid a din. The Minister of State for Finance has already accepted that it may not be possible to pass the bill in this session. That will throw off kilter the entire schedule of passing the GST bill. So we have to see what kind of a situation arises today. I'm not very hopeful. I mean, I would give out of 10, I would give 3 to the chances of the bill being passed, considered and passed today.
That being said, of course, we've seen neither the opposition nor the government nor the Treasury benches willing to meet somewhere, on common ground and try and talk this issue out and settle their differences. Who's to blame, really, as far as the situation is concerned?
It's very hard to say. The opposition says that it's a matter of propriety, that we are following the same kind of principles that the BJP forced upon it when 2 or 3 ministers of the UPA government were alleged to have been engaged in corruption and were made to resign on the insistence of the BJP. So all they're saying is, please follow the same principles. Meanwhile, the government is kind of coming halfway. For instance, the Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister was not in favor of a CBI inquiry. They have registered a CBI inquiry, and the CBI is moving extremely fast on that inquiry. Earlier in your own program, your correspondent noted that the CBI has now registered a case not just against those who have died, but also against the son of the governor of Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
So the CBI center is trying to send a message that, look, we are moving ahead through the CBI on a impartial inquiry. So you should also come and meet us halfway. But I don't think, after having stalled almost the entire session of the House, of the 2 houses, the opposition is going to let them get off so easily. So I'm not hopeful that the remaining 3 days, anything of the monsoon session can be salvaged at all.
While
the only thing we certainty is that maybe because of the fractures in the opposition, this will not be repeated in the winter session.
While all of this is happening, the taxpayer is, at the end of the day, is the loser, isn't he? Because there's so much of money that's being wasted in each one of these sessions being washed out and no work being done. So at the end of the day, we, the common man, are the ones who will suffer ultimately.
There are 2 views on that. One is that actually the opposition is doing the common man a service by stalling the House and hoping that sense will prevail and the so-called tainted ministers will quit. So it's to raise the bar of morality and restore the moral compass of the government that Parliament is being stalled. But yes, you have a point. A lot of money is spent running the House, and if it doesn't run, the legitimate function of the House, which is to transact business, results in 0. So I think some business has been transacted in this session by the Lok Sabha, but I think Rajya Sabha has done almost nothing. So on the other hand, it's also true that if you have a constant din, you can't really do much work.
Yes, indeed. We spoke about the GST. If the GST is not passed today or not passed in this session of Parliament, do you see it meeting its deadline of April 2016?
It looks very difficult because there's a whole lot of other intermediate steps that have to be taken, that have to be undertaken. The GST bill is only an enabling bill. State governments have to pass their own bills, repealing their VAT Act and introducing new bills. The entire legislation then has to be discussed. It has to be translated from English into the local language. Then it has to be discussed and passed. At least 50% of the states, almost 15 states, have to pass the bill before it can become a constitutional amendment. So there are a lot of things in between. And frankly, I'm not at all sure if there is a complete consensus on the GST bill as it exists, as passed by the Lok Sabha.
Indeed. All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Aditi, for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us this morning. Moving on now, the CBI has begun a preliminary inquiry into the mysterious death of Madhya Pradesh Governor Ram Naresh Yadav's son, Shailesh, in the multi-crore Vyapam scam. Shailesh was found dead under mysterious circumstances at his official residence in Lucknow on March 25th this year, making it the most high-profile death in the case so far. His name had cropped up in the scam for allegedly fixing the recruitment of 10 candidates as grade 3 teachers. Besides registering the preliminary inquiry late on Monday, the CBI also registered 6 more FIRs into alleged corruption in the conduct of examinations and recruitment tests conducted by Vyapam. The first case has been registered against 8 persons for alleged cheating by impersonation in pre-medical test in 2004, while the second FIR is against 11 persons for impersonating as candidates during PMT in 2005 and helping to secure admission in MBBS courses. The CBI registered the third case on allegations of cheating by impersonation in the constable recruitment examination scam of 2012 against 7 persons. Well, here's a look now at what's in store for today in our segment, The Day Ahead. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is in Delhi to seek flood relief assistance from the centre. Bengal, which was hit by devastating floods, is seeking a comprehensive central assistance to tide over the crisis. Mamata is slated to meet the Prime Minister on Wednesday. There is also a possibility of her meeting Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. The third leg of the coal mines auction will start today with firms like JSPL, Hindalco, Vedanta and JSW Steel in the fray for 5 blocks that the government has put up for bidding. 2 mines on offer today are Marki Mangli 1 in Maharashtra and Bhaskarpara mine in Chhattisgarh. The third tranche follows the government garnering over 2 lakh crore rupees in the first 2 phases of mines auction earlier this year. The JDU will launch its Shabd Wapsi campaign against Prime Minister Modi's remark targeting Nitish Kumar, announcing the launch of the campaign today. Nitish Kumar said that at least 50 lakh people of Bihar will join a signature campaign and send their samples to Modi for a DNA test. The Supreme Court is likely to begin hearing the plea of convicts in the Upar fire tragedy where 59 cinegoers had died of asphyxia in a massive blaze that engulfed the theatre in Delhi nearly 18 years ago. A 3-judge bench would hear the appeal, which has been kept top of the board after the Victims Association had moved the court for it. Moving on now, the union government has shown helplessness in enforcing a ban on porn websites, saying it cannot be present in everyone's bedroom. On a petition asking for a ban on porn sites in the country, Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi argued that even though child pornography has been banned, we cannot become a totalitarian state. Here's more.
In a climb down of sorts, the centre has told the Supreme Court that it cannot do moral policing in the name of curbing child pornography. Arguing for the union government, Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi told the Apex Court that the state cannot be present in every household to check what people were watching in private and interfere with their entertainment. Rohatgi also told the court that there was need for some self-regulation to check the viewing of porn websites, saying the state cannot be totalitarian.
The provisions of law 67, 67A and 67B of the Information Technology Act clearly ban transmission of pornography, obscenity and sexually explicit acts.
Supporters of the ban, however, say that action should also be taken against companies that transmit pornographic content.
Court feels that in the privacy of the room, one can watch. I am saying, no, sir. You cannot watch pornography in the privacy of your room because from A to Z, 1 to 100, it is completely a criminal activity.
Last week, the government had blocked over 850 portals that showed adult content on grounds of morality and decency. The order was partially revoked after an angry backlash amid a raging debate on censorship in a democracy. The government ordered internet service providers to shut down sites that promote child pornography, but these service providers say the order is ambiguous and impractical. With inputs from Vipin Chauhan, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but coming up after that, a state of emergency has been declared in the US city of Ferguson after the first anniversary vigil marking the killing of an unarmed black teenager, Michael Brown, turned violent. That and other international news on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Tales that inspire, stories of social change. A salute to diversity, promoting public discourse. Events that motivate, inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries every Friday at 10:30 p.m, Saturday 12:30 p.m, and Sunday at 1 p.m. Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, former telecom minister Dayanidhi Maran faces arrest after the Madras High Court cancelled his interim anticipatory bail in the alleged illegal telephone exchange case. He has been asked to surrender before the CBI within 3 days. The judge was passing the order after hearing arguments on the CBI's plea for cancellation of Maran's interim anticipatory bail and also on the former DMK minister's petition that the interim bail may be made a permanent one. The CBI has registered an FIR against Maran and others alleging that more than 300 high-speed telephone lines were provided at his Chennai residence and extended to his brother Kalanidhi Maran's Sun TV channel to enable its uplinking when Dayanidhi Maran was the telecom minister from 2004 to 2007. Apprehending arrest in the case, Maran had moved the court and was granted anticipatory bail for 6 weeks on June 30th. This bail was granted on certain. The CBI later moved the High Court seeking cancellation of the anticipatory bail on the ground that he was not cooperating in the investigation. Moving on to some international news now, at least 6 security forces have been killed in a wave of deadly attacks that hit Turkey last night. In Sirnak province, 4 police officers were killed by a roadside bomb. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, clashes erupted after a car bomb exploded in the police station. To make matters worse, the US consulate in Turkey also came under attack. 1 woman suspect has been detained so far. Here's more.
Turkey reeling under deadly violence amid rising tensions between the government and Kurdish militants. 4 different attacks, 6 policemen killed and several injured. 4 police personnel were killed by a roadside bomb. Another soldier died when gunmen fired on a military helicopter who is allegedly from a Kurdish group. Meanwhile, a police station in Istanbul was also under attack, killing 1. Worsening the situation, the US consulate in Turkey was also targeted by 2 assailants. 1 woman suspect has been arrested and the second suspect is still at large.
Working with Turkish authorities as they investigate this. I'm not aware of any injuries as a result of this.
Turkey's far leftist party, Revolutionary People's Liberation Army Front, claimed responsibility for the attacks. In a statement on its website, they called the US the chief enemy of people in the Middle East and in the world. Following the attacks, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu met the main opposition leader and held coalition talks. The opposition voiced its concerns to find a solution to the violence by flocking together. Turkey plunged into political uncertainty after the ruling AKP lost its majority in the June elections. Parties have until August 23rd to agree on a working coalition or President Recep Tayyip Erdogan could call a new election.
Bu görüşme herhangi bir sonuca bağlanmış değil. Bu hafta sonu gelmeden Perşembe ya da Cuma her ikisinin programına uygun bir biçimde Bu görüşmenin devamı niteliğinde
Violence escalated in Turkey after its strategic decision to open its air bases to the US-led coalition fighting against Islamic State during last month. Declaring a widespread crackdown on terrorists, Turkey hit on IS military base as well as PKK, the Kurdish militant group. They also targeted the far leftist groups. The United States has also sent 6 F-16 jets and nearly 300 personnel to a Turkish air base early on Sunday. The US, Turkey and some 60 other countries have declared its commitment to fight against IS, but in Turkey the situation seems to be in the brink of a political collapse as it faces opposition from its own people. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on to some other international news now, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has lambasted Pakistan over a recent wave of insurgent attacks in the capital Kabul. Blaming Islamabad directly, Ghani said that Pakistan remained a venue from which mercenaries are sending messages of war. Ghani's strong words came after the Afghan capital was hit by another deadly attack on Monday. 5 people were killed and 17 injured after a car bomb exploded near the entrance to the Kabul airport. The suicide bomber drove his vehicle into the first checkpoint and detonated. A young child was among those injured in the explosion. The incident is the latest in a series of deadly attacks recently after the Taliban announced a new leader. The terrorist outfit claimed responsibility for the attack.
موږ پاکستان نه دا غواړو چې هغه حلقات باندې چې افغانستان مقابل کې بغاوت کې دي عملی اقدام وکړي دوی د بغاوت مخه ونیسي.
Meanwhile, a state of emergency has been declared in the US city of Ferguson after events marking the first anniversary of the killing of an unarmed black teenager, Michael Brown, turned violent. An 18-year-old has been arrested in connection with the protests. He has been charged with assaulting officers. Tyrone Harris was critically wounded in a gun battle with police yesterday. Nearly 50 others have also been taken into custody, including civil rights activists. Largely peaceful demonstrations turned violent on Monday as clashes erupted between the police forces and demonstrators. Protesters called on the US government to disband the Ferguson Police Department. Michael Brown was shot on August 9, 2014 by a white police officer, Darren Wilson, who was later cleared of any wrongdoing by a grand jury and the US Department of Justice.
I strongly condemn the violence that was perpetrated against the community, including the police officers in Ferguson last evening. Last September, we launched the National Initiative for Building Community Trust and Justice that will bolster credibility, enhance procedural justice, reduce implicit bias, and drive racial reconciliation.
Let's take a look now at the other international news in our segment World Wrap. Google Inc. has announced a major shake-up of its operating structure, creating a holding company called Alphabet. India-born Sundar Pichai will be the new CEO to the core business of Google. Pichai has been working at Google since 2004. Alphabet will operate as the parent company for a number of smaller companies, including Google, which will continue to focus on the internet products. Android, YouTube, search and ads will remain part of Google Inc. Following the news, Google shares went up to almost 7%. Greece and its international creditors have been locked in a marathon overnight talks to seal the multi-billion euro bailout deal later today. Greece hopes to wrap up the deal for 86 billion euros in fresh loans so that it can get parliamentary and other approvals for aid to flow by August 20th. The debt payment to the European Central Bank is due on the same date. Well, for the first time after the 2011 Fukushima disaster, Japan has restarted its nuclear reactor. New safety rules are in place after a series of meltdowns at the Fukushima plant. All nuclear plants were shut down in 2011. Despite a strong public opposition, Japanese power operators have also applied to restart 25 reactors. The disaster at the Fukushima Daiichi plant was triggered by a massive earthquake and tsunami. Well, on to some sports news now, and we'll begin with the World Badminton Championship, which is currently being held in Jakarta. Indian shuttlers Parupalli Kashyap and HS Pranoy have advanced to the second round of the tournament. Both the Indian players won their first opening round in straight games. 10th-seeded Kashyap defeated his Netherlands opponent Eric Maes 21-17, 21-10 and set up a clash with Vietnam's Nguyen Tien Minh in the men's singles. Indonesia's Masters winner Pranoy, who is making a comeback after being sidelined due to a foot injury, disposed of Brazil's Alex Yuan Chong 21-12, 21-16. He will next take on Uganda's Edwin Ekiring in the next round. But the Indian mixed doubles pair of Arun Vishnu and Aparna Balan suffered a close 18-21, 21-10, 22-24 loss to the Russian pair of Evgeny Dremin and Evgenia Dimova, while another pair of Tarun Kona and Siki and Reddy too went down against their Chinese Taipei opponents. Olympic bronze medalist Saina Nehwal, India's Super Series winner Kidambi Srikanth and two-time bronze medal winner PV Sindhu will start their campaign today. Some more sports news now. Manchester City crushed West Bromwich Albion with a dominant 3-0 victory and landed straight at the top of the Premier League table. Yaya Toure scored twice as Manchester City made a convincing start to the season. Vincent Kompany scored the other goal as City ran out comfortable winners. With new signing Raheem Sterling in the starting lineup, City were 2 goals up inside 25 minutes. Toure put them in front in the 9th minute, his shot deflecting off David Silva. There was no doubt about the second goal as Toure scored from 20 yards after a nice 1-2 with Wilfried Boney. West Bromwich Albion battered hard but never looked like making a match of it. There's the other overnight sports news in our Sportsbeat. India's London Olympics bronze medalist Gagan Narang finished 5th in the men's 10-meter air rifle at the ongoing Shooting World Cup in Gabala, Azerbaijan. Gagan, who is recuperating from a neck injury, struggled in the initial rounds, making it to the 8-man final in the 8th position. He gave a better account of himself in the final, moving up 3 positions with a score of 144.5. Angelique Kerber of Germany beat Karolina Pliskova in a tight 3-set battle in the finals of the Bank of West Classic. Kerber closed out the up-and-coming Czech player by claiming the last 2 games of an entertaining 2-hour 7-minute contest for a 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 victory in Stanford, California. It was Kerber's 4th victory of the year to match Serena Williams for most tournament titles this season. The International Olympic Committee Vice President Nawal El Motawakel chaired the meeting of the committee's Coordination Commission to see the preparations for the Rio Games. All the venues, including the Games Village, are more than 2/3 ready, but work on temporary venues for rugby and beach volleyball is still to begin. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.